BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, September 26th, 2017. Megyn Kelly has now launched her new morning talk show on NBC, and it's received a lot of attention and a lot of publicity, but it's been almost all negative publicity. Twitter even conducted a poll about, would you be interested in watching a morning talk show with Megyn Kelly, and 96% of the recipients said no. There's an enormous amount of negative backlash surrounding this because people were very curious about how Megyn Kelly is now promoting herself as a uniter and trying to be the uniting force of all America, when for years she spent her time on Fox News making divisive comments, speaking out against a large number of individuals all across the spectrum. So people were very surprised about the change. And this is not Megyn Kelly's first show on NBC. Of course, she was the host of Sunday Night, which attempted to be some sort of investigative news magazine, but instead it turned out to be just a superficial line of questioning that provided absolutely no depth at all. And that brings us to the sort of heart of the issue. Megyn Kelly interviewed the Kardashians on her show, and people were just sort of shocked again as well. It's like, why is she bringing them around? Is it just like clickbait? Is it just something flashy to get people's attention? They are famous, we can give them that, but who really cares? And that is really what this has all come to. How much of Megyn Kelly's career do you think depends on her appearance? Keep in mind, during her younger years, she was promoted as perhaps the most attractive woman on any news network, anywhere in the country, cable or broadcast. She was promoted as the most attractive news anchor in America. But her performance as a reporter and a talk show host has always just been sort of subpar. How much of her career do you think depends upon her blonde hair and her figure as opposed to anything she can do with a microphone? Megyn Kelly brought Alex Jones on her Sunday night program and gave one of the most mediocre interviews out there. Other than one or two challenge questions about Sandy Hook, she did not press for any sort of deep information. And furthermore, she didn't even take a clear stance. There was no sort of argument going on. She didn't come at him from any particular direction. It was just sort of like reading off a Wikipedia page with one or two questions at the end. And that is just something that Megyn Kelly has tried to do her whole career, where it's just sort of been very bland, very ordinary, just listing off a bunch of ordinary information and then one or two comments at the end or one or two questions at the end that sort of have some sort of attention-grabbing power, but that is not what people want. There is a very large demand out there for quality information. The American people are not obsessed with things like the Kardashians. Yes, they are on the TV a lot, but in our hearts, no one really wants to see them. No one seems to even like them or show any positive interest in them. And when you host a show like Megyn Kelly had on Sunday night on NBC, that is a huge opportunity to actually expose the lies of the politicians, expose the lies of the corporate world, expose the lies of people who are in the spotlight or in positions of power. And she did not use that opportunity to do any sort of class reporting. It was just a giant publicity stunt. Yes, television networks are a business, but the way you improve your business is by doing something that attracts more people in a quality manner. Instead, people are thinking only about quantity. You can do both. You can bring quality and quantity together for a television network. And if she had really gone beneath the surface and really tried to pull up some very, very deep, dark secret of the government and put it out to an enormous mass audience and show the entire world what's really happening, she could have gone down as a legend. They could be talking about her 50 years from now. Like, more famous examples such as Edward R. Murrow, or even the lesser-known examples such as when Frontline did Guns, Drugs, and the CIA and won an Emmy, and just put out something that has really been one of the only sort of top-notch reporting jobs done on the CIA in their relation to the war on drugs. So we really need to demand more from people who are putting out this sort of kind of clickbait garbage onto the internet, and of course to this very sort of eye-catching flash onto the television. We can do more. The American people have a much larger appetite for the truth than they think. They might try to water down our viewing and our viewership, and they might try to just dilute the quality of their networks because they think it's going to get more attention. But if they actually put out some dark secrets of the government, went in there, did their jobs, and tried to expose some of the lies that the government, the corporate world, and sort of the people in the spotlight, then they would become legendary. And that would be something that you could talk about for decades, about how one reporter tried to break out the secrets of the world and share them to the people, which is why we're supposed to have these shows. And another thing that isn't so popular to admit, though, is shows like Dateline on NBC or 48 Hours on CBS are very entertaining because they give you real stories, and they also share things about the world that most people aren't thinking about. They're sort of bringing some of the lesser known evils of the world to light, and then people do get to learn. These shows can be very educational, and they can be very valuable because you learn more about how the country works and more how about your society works. But this is one thing that we did not get from Megyn Kelly. We have never really seen that from her. And it is not very acceptable for her to say that during her time as a primetime host on Fox for the Kelly File, she realized she was no longer interested in politics. She hosted a show on Fox News for 2 hours a day from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern, doing practically the same thing. What is the real difference there? So that's really not a viable excuse. They are just giving this woman a push for what? If you want to get more attention to your network, do the hard reporting, dig up the secrets, expose the truth, and expose the lies of the government. There is darkness out there in the government world, in the business sphere, and for the people who are in the spotlight. And bring that to light, because that is why these shows are there. And if you truly want attention for your network, and you truly want to create something that people are going to watch, go the extra mile. Do not give us this ordinary sort of pre-packaged woman with blonde hair and a giant fake white teeth smile and think that that's all Americans care about. Americans don't only care about appearances. If you give us the truth, it will become legendary.